I wanted to do a video to clear something up following some discussions in social media comments on posts, and I see that there's still a lot of confusion around this, and I'm hoping that maybe I can just shed some light on it. So I want to talk about electrical work in South Africa, who's allowed to do electrical work, and am I allowed to do some work in my house if I want to just fix something in my house or install a few lights or plugs, or maybe I just want to put a solar system in and maybe I think I can do it myself. Am I allowed to do so? And what are the ramifications if I do? What are the legalities around this? So I'm going to give you what the acts actually state. I'm not giving you my opinion, although I'm quite happy to add my opinion on the matter as well. So I think firstly the heart of it, we've got to go to what does the law actually state. So if we talk about I want to do electrical work in my house, am I allowed to do so? The comments were that yes, I can do it, but I just need to make sure I get a COC when I sell my property, and that is completely incorrect and definitely not in alignment with what the law says in South Africa. Yes, you do need a certificate of compliance when you're going to sell your property. We're going to get to that in a moment. So the first thing I think is to get to the definition of, if I'm going to say I want to do some electrical work in my house, well, what is the definition of electrical work? So as per the Occupational Health and Safety Act, the electrical installation regulations, it states that it's the installation, modification, repair or testing of electrical systems from the point of control to the point of consumption. This includes wiring and fixed machinery requiring authorized inspection, testing and certificate of compliance. So it's quite interesting that that's very, very broad. It's very broad. It's not giving specifics of can I change a plug, can I open my DB with tools. I mean, the moment you touch tools, you're showing an intention to do something that you have the experience, the skills, the qualifications to do so. The moment you pull out a ladder and get on top of a ladder, take out tools, screwdrivers and open a light fitting or open your distribution board, you are taking responsibility as the user or lessor of that property. And there's ramifications to that. You may well be able to do that work, but the question is, are you allowed to legally do so? And what are the kind of ramifications that could come about if you electrocute yourself or a family member, or you cause a fire on your property? There would be legal ramifications. The department would hold you liable because you're not allowed to do that, and an insurance company would also be holding you liable. You would not be able to claim because the person that's issued the certificate of compliance for your property will turn around and say, well, you've made changes here yourself that you were not allowed to do. So you may feel that it's your house and that you want to be able to do what you want. The reality is that, yes, no one's going to come and stop you, but you legally are not allowed to, and for good reason, because there are safety implications that come into play. Just like I cannot, if I want to, tomorrow wake up and decide I want to write a prescription for my friend who's sick. I don't want to pay to go to a doctor. I can see what he needs. I want to just write a prescription for him. I cannot do so because I didn't spend 7 years studying, working, getting the qualifications that legally allowed me to do that. And it's the same with electrical. I'm an installation electrician, or they call a wireman's license, and I'm an electrical contractor. And it took me about the same time, 7 years of working, gaining the experience, studying, passing exams, studying the acts, studying the codes, getting the qualifications that allow me to legally do that work, and then most importantly to issue a valid certificate of compliance thereafter. And a homeowner simply, unless you are in that position, I can do work at my own house because I have the qualifications. You are not allowed to do so. And the one person came with comments about, oh, what about people in shacks? The department should go to people in the shacks to go and look there first before they come to us as the homeowners. And I didn't actually know where to even start with replying to such a comment, other than to say, do you want to compare your freestanding house or your apartment to the health and safety standards of people living in shacks? Yes, we know we've got problems in this country. There's a lot of socio-economical issues, our leadership and all the rest. But the reality is we have good laws, and it's just that they don't get enforced. But they're there for a reason, and they're there for protection. And these are absolutely non-negotiable in my opinion, and if you do want to do so, you're taking matters into your own hands. So the Act goes on to say that such work may only be performed by or under the supervision of a registered person, such as a single-phase tester, installation electrician, that's me, or a master installation electrician. And the installation work description is again so broad. It talks about installation, extension, modification, repair, connection of machinery at the supply terminals, inspection, testing, verification of electrical installations for the purpose of issuing a certificate of compliance. So there is an interesting one. We're going to get to that in a moment. It says also, no person may do electrical installation work as an electrical contractor unless that person has been registered as an electrical contractor in terms of the regulations. Now, I don't know if you knew this, but the Department of Employment and Labour are the custodians of the electrical industry in South Africa. They issue my wireman's license. They issue my registration as an electrical contractor. They can revoke that. They can pull that back if they want to. They issue it, and I can then do the work legally, but if I contravene things, they can draw it back and say, we're not allowing you to do that work. You can't. Your license is revoked, your registration is revoked until you can prove to us your competency, etc. And so a registered person such as myself exercises general control, both on-site, off-site, via WhatsApp, Telegram, phone calls. At the end of the work, testing and verification, I have to issue a certificate of compliance to say that that work has been done in accordance with the relevant codes and acts. And so if you buy a house, typically you'd need a COC, that's for the sale to go through. But the OSH Act states very clearly, every user or lessor of an electrical installation must have a valid COC accompanied by a test report. That COC does not expire. If I buy a house and I live there for 10 years, that COC that was issued 10 years ago is still valid. If any additional alteration is done, which is what it goes on to say, then a supplementary certificate of compliance is issued. And here's where it's gone completely crazy in this country, and it's specifically on solar installations. I want to touch on that in a minute. So if I come to a client and ask them for their COC, they should be able to go to the safe or their document cabinet and go and retrieve it and give me a copy of their initial certificate of compliance that covers the house, because the OSH Act says you're supposed to have that. Most people, they don't even know what we're talking about, because it goes to the deeds office when they bought the house 10 years ago, and now all of a sudden they need it and don't know where it is. So it's a tick box items for estate agents. And that's, I think, where the problem at the root of it also comes, is that the person who sells, the onus is on them, unless it's expressly written differently in the offer to purchase. It's the person selling. Now, there's a bias and a problem, because if I'm selling my house, I don't want to spend 30,000 Rand repairing it. I want to make as much money from that sale as possible. And the person buying it, they just get a house with a COC that's been issued, and a lot of the times, unfortunately, that COC is not worth the paper that it's written on. They will move into the house and they've encountered tripping problems and issues, or getting shocked, or things don't work as they should, and they're left with very little recourse to actually get any joy. And it's a sad situation. So that's where the industry is. And then you bring into the conversation solar, and that's where things just start going crazy. So every Tom, Dick and Harry, as I've said in a previous video, fell into solar during the boom. And a person that was my plumber last week, this week he's doing solar installations. And this term solar installer started getting banned about. Now, I don't have an issue if you want to call yourself a solar installer. That's fine. You call yourself what you want. But as you see per that definition, solar doesn't live in some mystical realm, guys. Solar work very much falls under that definition that I gave you. You've got a fixed electrical installation, machinery, your inverter, your battery, your solar panels, mounting gear that's mounted on your roof, cabling that's run and fixed in conduit, running from there to your system with switch gear. It's part of the electrical installation. Solar work can be done by a registered electrical contractor only. That's your minimum baseline. You can say, okay, a person needs to have additional qualifications, and you can start talking about all these different color cards and things, and that's great. I've got no issue with that. But if you are doing electrical work in South Africa and you are not an electrical contractor registered with the department, and a installation electrician like myself is signing off on the work with a valid certificate of compliance, you are breaking the law. Now, you can harp around it and you can say, what about people living in locations and all that? That doesn't change that. Those are the facts. So solar installers typically now get someone else to come and sign the COC, and that is fraudulent, and the department have stated as much. But the problem is they skirt around the regulations, they don't know half of it, and they end up installing a non-compliant install, sometimes often dangerous. Guys, we've redone a lot of solar installations, like actually dangerous to the point where it's shocking the client. They've got serious safety issues there, where a fire started in the one client's house. I'm not saying this is every solar installer, but I'm saying that this is happening. This is where the industry is at the moment. And a lot of the times they just get someone to come and sign off a COC for 500 or 800 Rand. So some of these things you really got to think carefully about. You're taking matters into your own hands. I'm not saying you don't know how to replace a plug in your house, but opening up your DB, sticking your fingers in there, you connect something wrong, you make your earth live, kids get shocked, Who's responsible? You, as the user. You cannot hold the wireman responsible, because his certificate of compliance will cover his work up until when it was done and tested and verified it was correct. You then went and made changes. Remember now, as I said, with the intention, you took a tool and you opened something up. That shows intention, that you are saying, I know what I'm doing, I'm going to go and do work here. But you're not legally allowed to do that work. You do not have the skills, the knowledge, the qualifications. Legally, you cannot do that work. How can you? You're not an electrical contractor. You cannot sign off a certificate of compliance. You cannot do the work. Keep in mind, you're also altering the COC, because if I issued a COC for your house a few years ago and you've gone and made changes, whether it was you or whether you got some electrician to come in and do the work, and you do not have supplementary COCs that cover that work, you cannot expect me to stand by my certificate of compliance, because you have altered it. You have altered it. Where there were 10 lights, maybe now there's 16 lights. How do I know that work was done in a compliant manner? And it's no different with solar. So we've had to rip out a lot of systems and start from scratch. The problem that you have at the moment is people are bamboozled by cheap pricing, and this is exactly what's happening. Guys are just flying in. They're doing the work as quick as they can because they have to do volume in order to make money. Because the profit margins are so small, because they're doing the work in half the time that I would do it. They're using cheap, inferior quality equipment and materials, and they are just sidestepping so many things that are literally down to safety components, surge protection, fuses, the right size cabling installed in the correct manner, tested, verified to make sure that it's safe. So you're playing with fire if you are leaning towards those kind of people that are just coming in and doing work, or whether you just undertake to do work at your house. There's legal implications. There can be implications from an insurance perspective. So you've got to be super careful. This is not any man's game. You're dealing with electricity. It's life-threateningly dangerous potentially. And so hopefully this can help somebody. If you are in the market for solar, be careful, do your due diligence, make sure, don't be shy to ask. You know, in the time that I've been doing this, maybe 2 people have asked me to see my wireman's license, to see my registration as an electrical contractor, to see my proof of my public liability insurance. This is another one, people don't even think about it. Some guy who comes and does work at your house and causes 100,000 rands worth of damage and he's got no insurance. Who's gonna pay for that? And he doesn't have the money to pay for it. Now you're gonna have to go to lawyers and spend big money to try and recoup. Maybe he doesn't even have the money that you start attaching things that he has. His bucky's worth 50,000. You out of pocket and the lawyer's fees, and you can't get the money from him. He's gonna pay you back $500 a month for the next 20 years. But I've got public liability insurance, defective workmanship insurance. I'm literally covered by Santam. Up to 5 million or 10 million rand, depending what cover you need. You choose your cover. You can also scale it up and down according to projects. But people don't think about this, and they don't ask these kind of questions. You know, when you're looking for solar specifically, do you want a Hilux? Do you want a Proton? It's not a one size fits all. You have to design bespoke according to the client's needs and budget. Give them the best value for money. And it's the same with electrical work. It's not all the same. Some guys go to the Pakistani shops or the China malls and they go and buy their stuff there. A lot of it is not SABS approved, it's not certified, and they simply go and install it. And that's fine. You want to take a chance with that and work with that kind of equipment, that's up to you. But for me, as an electrical contractor with a reputation in the community to uphold, I will never take those kind of risks and take those kind of shortcuts that puts my clients' premises and their family and their property and their animals in danger. You cannot take chances with this to save a few rands. It just does not make sense. So I hope this video helps somebody. I hope that it's cleared it up for you. You can have a discussion on opinions as much as you like, but the law and the acts are crystal clear. Whether they're enforced or not, well, that's a different discussion for another day. But you are not allowed to simply go and do electrical work in your house or for other people, and that includes solar installations.